Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, October 20th, 2010, and my guest today is my friend Alex Ikonomidis. Today we're going to hear a little bit about what it was like to come to the United States as a boy from Greece. We'll also hear about his trip back a couple of years ago with his fiancée and how things have changed since his last trip. Also, he's going to tell us some stuff about where you should go if you visit Greece for your first time. In my future programs in a couple of weeks, my guest will be the former PBS host of Chef Harry and His Celebrity Friends. Harry was on PBS for 4 years. Another guest will be talking about his trip to Egypt as part of a wedding party. Finally, I'll interview an international soccer star and sports reporter from Brazil. Well, good afternoon, Alex. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. I've known you for a long, long time, and I knew your aunt before she passed away and a little bit about your background, but my listeners don't know. So would you tell us a little bit about your life in Greece before you came to the United States?
Sure, I'd love to. I was a young boy when I first came to the States. I was only 5 years old. The small memories that I do have before coming to the United States, it's just a humble beginning. My father had a little barber shop that was connected to our house right on the main road in a city called Thessaloniki, or some people know it as Salonika. It's pretty much the second largest city in Greece, Athens being the first, and it's more northern from Athens. Beautiful city, though. A lot of deep history there. And, well, basically, at the time, my father actually wanted to come to the United States. There wasn't much as far as jobs and opportunity, and even though he had his own little hair place, life was difficult in Greece. And like any other immigrant back then, the thought of coming to America, of course I say back then, that was in 1967 I was born, so we're talking about 1972 is when I came over here. So at that time, it was a great deal of inspiration to come to this country. Fortunately for my father, he had a sister, which was my aunt. Her name was Connie, and she had already come to the United States. When she first came here, she came on a boat. Fortunately for me, they had airplanes before, although it probably would have been pretty neat to come on a boat. It would have been quite a long travel.
Right.
So, from what I remember my father had gone away for a long period of time before I came to the States, and that's because he had traveled to Canada and was waiting in Canada to get permission to come to the United States. Back then, I'm not sure how much laws have changed or haven't changed, but it was a very difficult thing to come to the United States. You had to be sponsored to come, and you had to wait for approval to be allowed in the country. And so my dad did that. He tried to do everything the right way, leaving his family for almost 8 months to try and do that. Unfortunately, he never got the okay to come within those 8 months, so he ended up traveling back to Greece, rightfully so, missing his family along with me. My mom, I also have 2 brothers that were twins. They're a little older than I am. So, little did he know, though, that once he got back to Greece, the permission had come for him, but it was too late at that point.
My.
Yeah. So, my aunt, wanting to help, offered to take one of the kids over for a short period of time, and where eventually the whole family could come over. And I was not her first choice. Believe it or not, I know you've known me for a long time, but I was a very rambunctious little kid. Fortunate for me, my brothers were twins, and you couldn't separate the twins, or that wasn't the greatest thing to do. So I was very blessed and very fortunate enough to come here at the age of 5. And unfortunately, shortly after that, my dad had passed away. I was either 5 and a half or going to be 6 when he passed away. So I ended up staying here, and my mom and my 2 brothers ended up staying in Greece. And we used to go every summer to visit for a long time. But it was quite an experience, you know. And for me, coming to this country, at the time we didn't have luxuries like TV set. Our running water was usually never running. We had a well outside the house, and the bathroom was more of an outer extension of the home. It wasn't something that as modern as we see it today. So coming to this country, of course, I had TV set and nice roof over my head, and it was quite different. I was quite thankful for the things that, you know, even at a young age. I remember telling my aunt how thankful I was just being able to watch TV, you know. My aunt recalls one time me sitting in front of the TV set when I first came, and just all of a sudden stopping and looking up and saying, "Thank you, God, for these wonderful things that you've given me," at that age. So it wasn't easy by all means, because obviously I left my family behind, and it was a struggle, and I knew nothing of the language at all. Fortunately for me, my aunt was very well versed in English, and also very well versed in Greek. So her main thing was that I learn the English language and to speak it well, but also maintaining my Greek language, sending me to Greek school through the years and things like that.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Some of the stuff I've heard for the first time. Now, you said the city was the second largest in Greece.
Yes.
And how was employment back then? I know now there's a lot of turmoil in Greece. Back then, what prompted your father? I know your uncle and your aunt were here. Was it because of the ability to the American dream, so to speak?
Absolutely. Greece back then, I don't want to say it wasn't much different than it is today, because there's a lot of turmoil in Greece today. It was just a different type of turmoil. I guess no different than how it was growing up in this country during Depression times and that sort of thing. It was a different type of character, different mindset. People really, you know, if they didn't have something, they really worked hard to get it. They weren't looking for, my family was never looking for any type of handout or anything like that. You know, they really struggled hard for what they had, and they worked hard to get it, and they just saw America as an opportunity for a better life. Now, when you came over, you had to go through and get some of the paperwork, or did you use your father's paperwork to come over to the country? My aunt actually had to sponsor me. That was quite an ordeal. For almost a year straight, every week she would take a ride up to the Greek consulate in Boston, where a lot of this paperwork had to be done. And pretty much she camped out there for the year, you know, pleading and asking to bring me over. And finally, you know, her voice was heard, and I was able to come over at a very young age. Of course, I didn't become an American citizen until I was 18 years old. And part of that was because I kept the same last name as my father. My aunt and uncle became legal guardians of me instead of adopting me.
Right, right. Well, you know, I know personally that the stuff that you've got, the hurdles you've got to jump through to come into the United States today legally are very, very much the same. You have to get permission from the United States government. You have to also file paperwork in your homeland, and then they give you permission, and then you've got to apply to the United States, and the United States says whether or not you can come or not. And as a young person, that must have been, I know your parents probably did a lot of that. My brother came from Slovakia at 9 years old. His father was an abuser. He beat him. My grandfather never went to school. He worked on farms, so you can imagine a 9-year-old working on farms, and if the farmer didn't think he worked hard enough that day, he'd beat the crap out of him. Yeah. And then he'd come home and his father would find out about it, and his father would beat the crap out of him. So his mother saved money, being a seamstress, and sent him over. One day he got home and she said, "Your father's going to kill you tonight. You've got to go to America. Your uncle's there. Go see him." And here's a 9-year-old sent on his way, walking across, and he walked all the way from Slovakia, well, it used to be Czechoslovakia or Austria-Hungary, all the way up to Amsterdam, and took a boat to the United States and landed in Ellis Island. The turmoil and the stuff that people go through to come here legally is just incredible. And then citizenship, I know he got U.S. citizenship. He was so proud of it and spoke impeccable English. I always thought he didn't speak well. And you do well. I mean, but you've been here since you've been a very young person, so you're going to be able to speak a little better than some others. But English is a real important thing to my grandfather, and it sounds like it is to you also.
Oh, absolutely. There was nothing prouder than the day that I stood there at 18 years old in City Hall and raised my hand and was sworn in as American citizen, first of all. And then just learning the English language is, you know, it is very important to me to keep my Greek heritage. It's very important to me. I now have a 2-year-old daughter, my wife and I. Mm-hmm. You know, we teach her Greek. We teach her those things, but just as important, the values of being an American citizen and the importance of it all. And you know, we're proud. We're proud to be an American. I know I am.
Right.
For the kind of values I like to bring up my daughter.
You know,
at the same point, never forgetting where we came from. You know. Right.
Right. You don't forget, hopefully, where you came from. But I've never heard you consider yourself a Greek American. You've already said that you're an American when I've talked to you, you're an American or U.S. citizen, and you're from a Greek background.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. You melted in, and your family came over to this country, as my grandfather did, and my grandfather on my father's side and grandmother from my grandfather on my father's side came from England. He didn't have to learn how to speak English, although yes, he did. Probably didn't have to learn how to speak. Pardon?
I said I guess I'm a firm believer in the old melting pot term itself.
Right.
You know,
and that's.
Go ahead.
That's what I was driving at, was melting pot. You've assimilated into this culture, and you haven't forgotten your Greek ancestry and your homeland and all that, but that hasn't taken primary. It doesn't sound like it to me after knowing you for maybe 25 years that you've ever considered not being American first. And I've never heard you say you're a Greek American.
Right. Right.
interesting way, especially today, the way things are going. Now, a couple of years ago, when you got engaged to Erica, you went to Greece to visit with your brother, and you had taken several trips like this before, but here's somebody she had never been before, correct?
Right. She had never been, did not know the language, and unlike this country, which many people are very blessed, is they speak Greek, and they don't they don't conform to everyone else's language. So going there as an American, if you don't know the Greek language, she did not. At times, it was just to sit and listen, and not understand a thing that's being said. Fortunately for her, my cousin happened to be there at the same time, and she did a lot of translating at different times, or I would just leave her in the dark, mainly.
Right.
But,
now your brother is.
I have two brothers. One of them is a priest, and he lives in a monastery, and he dedicated his life to doing that many years ago. And the other one is just simply family man. He's got a son and his wife, and he's a very hard worker. Again, his work is so sparse there. It's so difficult. Unless you're in, I guess the only way to describe it is everything over there is almost unionized. And unless you're in with the right person or the right union, it's almost impossible to find a job. They're always doing odd jobs or looking for work. And that's pretty much his whole life there.
Where did you take your wife, on her first trip? I mean, you went to, obviously went to visit your home and your brother and possibly your other brother, but where else? Where was the top thing or things that you brought her to?
Well, I'll tell you one thing we've discussed about going back, because there's so many different places I'd love to take her. And we spent most of our time in Salonika because it's a beautiful city, and just traveling around. And our main transportation was actually the bus. We'd just take the bus to different locations where we wanted to go. Or we spent a lot of time walking. That's how we got around. If we needed to go someplace far, I'd get a taxi cab and we'd go. I know the times before when I had gone, I had rented a car, but this time we just wanted to lay low, hit the city, really look at all the beautiful things that Salonika has to offer. But there's so many other. We went to some of the outskirts, and Thessaloniki, some of the country sites, to visit family that were out there. But our next trip, we'd love to hit some of the islands. I've never personally been to the islands, but I hear they're very beautiful. And Athens, I've been to Athens. It's another beautiful city with the Parthenon. It's just a lot of rich tradition. I mean, even though I think the last trip I had taken was over 12 years ago, before that. And I had taken my aunt at 92 before she had passed away. And it hadn't, the feel of it hadn't really changed much. Yes, the economy is in turmoil and things, and obviously there's some new buildings and things that they built up. And the Athens airport itself everything was built up there because of the Olympics that they had not too long ago, and I hadn't been there. I'd been there before the Olympics, but they had really modernized a lot of things down there. But Thessaloniki had not really changed much at all. Just the feel of, the old traditions and the buildings that were there. And it's it was beautiful being there. Now, that's looking at it from, the outside in. Of course, living there, my brother has his day-to-day struggles and just getting medicine for what he needs. Sometimes it's a struggle. But, to me, looking at it from the outside, it really hasn't changed much. The feel of it, the beauty of it all, I still enjoy going there. Of course, like I say to my wife, vacation is good enough. It's nothing like coming home,
That's the truth. That's the truth. Traveling all these years myself, I realize that. I'm more thankful when I get home also because, when I went to Egypt, there were times when, you're looking at some of these villages and they may or may not have water, they may or may not have power, or they might not have the normal communication systems we've got. We come home and we turn on the faucet, we expect water. We turn on the lights, we expect lights. And really, we're fortunate, and we really don't appreciate it in this country unless we've seen what other people live with and live without.
Absolutely. My brother never owned a car. 2 years older than I am. Never owned a car. Always used public transportation to go around. And never, doesn't need it. Never.
Right.
Or me, we're blessed to have 2 cars in our family, But you don't think about it.
Right, exactly. That's right.
Never experienced not having them. Even the house we live in, the different housing that they have down there, it's more like a apartment building, condominium style type of housing, especially in the cities there, where they live. Even though they own, really all it is an apartment. If you think about it, and here in the United States, it's a 2-bedroom with a kitchen and a living room, and it's pretty much all it was. It's just an apartment, but they own it. It's like a house, that we consider. So, I come here, I got a half-acre of land and beautiful home, and so much different than being there. I guess it would be like living in New York around here in a skyscraper. Of course, a little different, but their buildings aren't quite that.
Now, you mentioned you visited a lot of beautiful sites in the city. What are some of those places? Were they historical or cultural things? What kinds of things are in that city?
They've got down by the water, which is, within walking distance, because everything's surrounded by water over there. There's a tower that's built that sits right on water where years ago that's how they would send people up there to defend the city from people coming from the water, the ocean. There's a wall that starts from the top of the mountain and comes pretty much all the way down to the ocean. A lot of it is crumbled in different places, but you can still see it in different places. It's pretty prevalent around the city. And, it's kind of neat to walk through the city and then you see buildings, and a church right in the middle.
Right.
An old church just sitting there, not touched, built around almost. And there's different archaeology. I can't think of the word.
Archaeological digs.
Yes. Sites that they have even within the city that are blocked off. Matter of fact, the house that we lived in, there was a part of that wall was behind our house. So the government years ago bought the land from my brother. When I say bought, it was almost an exchange for the house that they live in now. So they exchanged the property because they wanted to preserve that land for what was there. That's one thing they really try to do. They try to preserve the different areas that are the history of Greece.
Very interesting.
I mean, it was neat.
When you were saying they have archaeological digs right in the middle of the city, and I'm saying, well, in the United States, we'd knock down the building, pour in some soil, and build right over it.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty remarkable. You're walking along, and all of a sudden there's this area that's just, and it's a city block, and it's just gated off, and in the middle there, people are discovering things, and under the ground that were built, and of course they've got things like Alexander the Great, his burial, which is pretty much underground. It's quite remarkable to see, because you go underground, and then under the ground, his tomb is like 50 feet below that, where you look over. And
wow.
It's really interesting to see that. And, you go.
And that's in that city.
That's in the outskirts of that city, yeah. And then
really.
Yeah. And then you go to places where Paul the Apostle preached, and there's a certain monument there, and that sort of thing. And right on it's almost like a boardwalk on the ocean. There's a plaque that's dedicated to the Jews that died during the Holocaust in Germany. The Greek Jews. That I thought that was quite interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And it's just a great place to go and visit and to learn a lot about history.
Right.
Right.
Very interesting. So the accommodations is the concentration of people in that area in the city center, or are they more on the outskirts of the suburbs?
Well, the thing of it is, the whole city is pretty much housing. With
right.
a few buildings here and there that are commercially owned or things of that, and it reaches out to the country. And then once you get to the country, you have more of smaller homes, but even those homes are maybe built. There's no basements. There are basements, don't get me wrong, but out in the country, there's more of a
cold cellar.
Yeah, with everything is built up, almost not on stilts, but you have to walk the steps to get to the first floor. Not level with the ground. The way we think of
very
it here.
Interesting.
It's almost like they're next to the ocean or something and worried about water getting in. And of course, everything there is made out of concrete. You don't find wood houses or anything made out of wood, really. It's all pretty much cement and stuff and things like that.
Now, if we're talking, obviously you're going to go back and you're going to visit Athens and maybe go on a cruise and stuff like that.
Yeah, that cruise that you were announcing sounds really nice.
It's really a great price. But what is the food? I know you got. Is it? Let's say if you compare Greek food here to Greek food there, it's sort of like Chinese food here is nothing like Chinese food in China.
Right.
What is the?
One thing I enjoyed is the gyros that they have there. A lot of people know them as gyros here, but the actual word gyro. And the neat part about that is you're walking down the street, and almost like we have a pizza shop in every corner, they've got a little shop that sells gyros. And right there, some of them are open windows where the meat is right there in front of you as you walk by. You can see it. And one thing they do differently than we do here, and I don't know if this is a new custom that they've gotten, but they actually put French fries right in the sandwich itself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and we enjoyed it. A lot of feta cheese and olives.
Mm-hmm.
Like we ate a lot of that. With
Mm-hmm.
salads are a little different too, where you just have tomatoes and feta cheese and olives and oil as opposed
Olive oil.
right as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that, a lot of bread, and I did gain a few pounds. I'll admit that. But it was well worth it.
Right, right. Now, the wine, they have wine, and do they make a beer?
They do have Greek beers. My family and I, we don't drink, so that's one thing we didn't experience. The different wines and beers and that sort of thing. But they do make a Greek beer, from what I know. And of course, they've got the traditional ouzo, where if you take a sip of that, you'll be out for the next week or so.
You're out, right? I remember ouzo.
See, that's another thing. It was never a big deal growing up, to have it. I guess it's different.
Sip of wine.
Right, it's different thinking. Here in the United States, most people can't wait to be 18 just to go out and buy a drink or something, Or
Right.
21. Was it 21 now? I don't even know.
21, depending upon where you are. Mm-hmm.
But back when I used to go, there was no laws or drinking age.
Right.
So it wasn't maybe it was a more relaxed thought about it, You did
Right.
it wasn't a big deal. You were at home.
Maybe not the abuse that there is here.
Right.
Do you think? Or
And I again, my aunt and uncle, even growing up here, we never had any kind of wine or any kind of alcohol in the house. They just weren't drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
I was never brought up. My uncle always used to say that liquor was the devil's way of getting into someone's mind. So that was his thinking.
Yeah.
He was born in 1897, and
Right.
obviously he had different views and thoughts about things. And, here was a man that I remember at 85 years old, he'd be out doing the garden with a sport coat, That's the way he used to dress.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up
Right.
there. So for me, I would love to tell you all the different good wines and beers, but I don't know. Something I never.
Well, I remember the first I traveled to Europe, and talking about the relaxed atmosphere regarding liquor. We're in Luxembourg, and at a bar, but there was a hotel attached to it. Most people would look at it as a bed and breakfast here. Well, anyways, went down to the bar and had a pint. I don't think we had any wine. We had a pint of beer, and in walked these two kids. I don't think they were much more than 10 or 11 years old. Stood at the bar. They poured them a drink. They drank one drink and walked out the door. And I said to the proprietor that I was amazed. That he said, "Oh yes, we don't make a big deal out of it here," which I found interesting. Now, whether or not, I think it depends upon the person also, whether or not they're going to become abusive to the substance or not. So.
Sure, it's like anything. Anything can become addictive.
That's right.
You allow it.
That's right. So we've covered. The only thing that I haven't heard a lot about is, let's say you don't have family there. What about the accommodations? Are there hotels like United States, like the Marriott and places like that, or are there more local and smaller?
Hotels down there. Very beautiful. Our last trip that I took, along with all the other trips I've ever taken, we've always stayed with family. So for me, I'm fortunate, never to have to find a hotel. But there are some beautiful accommodations. When my cousin, he had gone there. His daughter, Stephanie, I have a first cousin that's here. My aunt's sister had also come at the time, and Steve had come here, about the same age as me. He was there visiting with his wife because his daughter was going to college there. She was born here in the United States and grew up. We're from the. My wife and I live in Long Meadow now, but we grew up in East Long Meadow. And his daughter had gone to Long Meadow schools, and she graduated, went to college, and then wanted to do some stuff in Greece, and she actually went to Thessaloniki and went to college there. So at the time when we went, she just happened to be there. We didn't even know she was going to be there. And long story short, my cousin Steve, he had went with his wife to obviously be with their daughter, and they had found a beautiful place right near the ocean there. Of course, like I said, everything's near the ocean. So there are some very beautiful hotels. Matter of fact, there was one hotel, and my wife and I, when we used to walk, there's like a right in the heart of the city, right on the water there, where there's a boardwalk, and there's like a little, how do I describe it? It's like a little park, but it's not really a park. It's all of stone, and it's like a U-shaped, and around it are all beautiful hotels. And at night they have music there that they play. At the time they actually had an orchestra playing in the middle, which was beautiful. And my wife and I used to go to the hotel, and we'd go to the top because there was a restaurant up there. And it could overlook the ocean, and it's just beautiful because you'd go up there, and they had a nice swimming pool right on the deck, and you could eat there. But they very, very nice hotels.
So they're not hotels that we would recognize here. They're Greek hotels.
I mean, they do have some of those, but they're different names, like the Alexandria, for instance.
Right.
I picked that one because obviously my name's Alex, so that was probably one of the best hotels. Another thing too is how things haven't changed as much. They still close shops at a certain time, more so in rural Greece, as opposed to the city. But even some of the city, a certain time of the day they'll close and almost take a nap. Just go take naps. I mean, I remember as a young boy going there, and that's what we used to do. My uncle's brother used to have a little like shop with a cafe where the old timers would go. They'd have coffee and they'd play backgammon. That was the game of choice back then. And Arnie had a little store, and next to it was a little bakery. And I remember back then. I remember even now. The more I think about it, there was a big presence of military. You'd see a lot of military trucks where you wouldn't see it around here. It's not often you walk out your door and you see a military truck drive by, unless you live near
a military base, right?
But over there, it's common to see soldiers with guns. And I remember a soldier used to buy me these what they call pteropitas, which is a cheese-filled pastry, which I really love. It came a certain time, whether I wanted to or not, you got to take a nap. As a young boy, you don't want to take naps in the afternoon, but
true.
It's more relaxed. When they take vacations, it's not a week at a time. I'm lucky if I take my 2 weeks vacation. Over there, you take 1-2 months.
Right.
You don't work that period. It's time of relaxation. So.
Very interesting. Now we got a couple minutes left, and I wanted to find out if you've got any advice for travelers to Greece for the first time.
Well, they should definitely contact you
Okay.
to get steered in the right direction.
Okay.
My main thing is one thing my wife and I did when we went. I actually used, I was surprised it worked, but just my debit card, a Visa debit, instead of carrying cash.
Right.
We used that a lot, and it worked out very well because it automatically transferred it from Greek to American money. It's something we didn't have to worry about, going
Right.
to places. Most places took that. It wasn't like maybe a handful of places needed to take cash. If you're going to go and you don't speak the language, I suggest you learn a little bit of the basics only to get around. Because you will find an occasional person that might speak English. It's not always easy. The cab drivers do tend to try and speak a little English, but it's very broken. It's very limited. So just to learn where you're going, always know when you leave your hotel, especially if know how to get back, know the name of it, things like
Right.
that.
Well, give us. We got about 30 seconds left. Say hello in Greek and goodbye in Greek.
Well, yasu is goodbye, and yasu can also mean hello.
And what is hello?
It's pretty much the same word, yasu. Tikanis. Tikanis is hello. Yasu is more used as a goodbye. So tikanis, how are you? Sepharisto, thank you very much.
Well, very good, very good. And our program is finished. Yasu.
Yasu.
Yasu, we'll talk to you again, Alex. It was great having you on the show, and you can listen to this and send people to http://